Predicting how Star Wars characters will die. Yes, it's not the most light-hearted video, but I've made some short versions of these, but I want to explain certain predictions that I made of characters dying in the past and also give you some new ones. So there's going to be characters from the prequels, the originals, the sequels, the Mandalorian, etc, etc, all over Star Wars, and I just want to explain why I think they will die the way that I think they will die. So let's start off with one of the more relevant ones at this point in Star Wars, and that is going to be Grogu. I think Grogu is going to die at the hands of Snoke.
What?
And you may think, just off the bat, that sounds quite weird, and well, that's probably because it does, because Snoke isn't even around yet, so clearly I don't think Grogu is going to die anytime soon. But I think Grogu is going to be used in the process of making Snoke, and once Snoke is successfully made, he's going to realise that Grogu is the one that was used to make him, and he's not going to want to be replaced because we know Snoke has his own consciousness as well as partially being controlled by Palpatine. So the Snoke consciousness is going to want to eliminate the chance of being replaced, therefore eliminating Grogu, and he is the only Snoke, or at least successful one. This could also partially explain why Palpatine wasn't quite perfect on Exegol, because the Force sensitive blood that was being used to make all of the Snoke bodies and the Force sensitive bodies ready for him to go into has been taken away, so they have a limited supply, and maybe they didn't quite hit the nail on the head for Palpatine, hence why he looked the way he did in The Rise of Skywalker. So I definitely think this one makes a lot of sense for both those reasons I just explained, and yes, it sounds weird off the bat, but I think it's really plausible, and even as a company, Snoke doesn't need to be introduced to the Mandalorian timeline anytime soon, so they can get their money's worth with the Grogu character, showing him with Luke and stuff like that, and then they can actually finish off his story but still work it in to the timeline effectively and link the Mandalorian to the sequels well. Next up is a very simple one, most people will agree, and it is Quinlan Vos is going to die to Darth Vader. Yes, Quinlan Vos survived Order 66, he does not have a confirmed death yet, so I think it's very likely that Vader is going to kill him. Realistically, Palpatine isn't going to be getting his hands dirty going out killing Jedi himself. The Inquisitors probably aren't strong enough unless there was like 4 of them piled up on Quinlan Vos, because we know Quinlan Vos is very good. He even beat Dooku one time, so it would probably take Vader to defeat him, and I imagine this will be in the Kenobi series, I think, because I don't think they're going to waste a character like Quinlan Vos or a fight scene like Vos versus Vader for a book or a comic, so I think we're going to see this in a series. Maybe it will come out in a series that hasn't been like confirmed yet, like there is a rumoured Inquisitor series that features Vader heavily, maybe it would be in that, but out of all the ones that are confirmed to happen, Kenobi is the only one that I could see it happening in, so I think Vader will kill Quinlan Vos. Maybe it could even be in Bad Batch Season 2, actually, that could make sense. Now we have Grand Admiral Thrawn, and I think he's going to die to Sabine Wren. Now this is again a weird one, because yes, Sabine is far superior in combat to Grand Admiral Thrawn, but how would she get an opportunity to kill Thrawn, and why would she do it? Well, Thrawn is responsible, at least in Sabine's eyes, for the disappearance of Ezra, and by the time of the Ahsoka series, which I think this will be in, it would have been many years. So she's really missing Ezra, and she's putting all of the blame on Grand Admiral Thrawn. She could also partially blame him for the death of Kanan, because obviously he was in control of all of the Imperials on Lothal, and obviously he died on Lothal. So in the heat of the moment, we know Sabine can lose her cool, and if she had those things in the back of her mind, if she gets the chance to see Thrawn and kill him, she is going to do so. Chances are this will be they board Thrawn's ship for some kind of reason. Maybe Ahsoka's with her, maybe Ezra's with her, they've already found him, and she just gets so angry and she straight up shoots him when she has the chance. And obviously Ahsoka, being like the good person that she is upset by this, because she shouldn't do this. She's like giving into her anger, and of course she's not going to turn into a Sith, but as a light side force user that Ahsoka is, she doesn't want people around her giving into their anger and doing things like this. Although to get Thrawn in the position where you can shoot him would be rather difficult, because he's very smart, but the chances are Sabine has developed a lot since Rebels to the Ahsoka series as well, and I personally can't wait to see her in it. Now this one is going to be very basic, and it's going to be explained very quickly because of how basic it is. Cad Bane is going to die to Boba Fett in the book of Boba Fett. Bane doesn't have a confirmed death yet in canon. I don't think it's going to come in Bad Batch Season 2 or Kenobi or anything before the original trilogy, so chances are it will be in Book of Boba, and chances are it will be to Boba. They had a deleted scene duel in the Clone Wars where Boba shot Bane in the head, Bane shot Boba in the head, but Boba obviously survived because he was wearing a helmet, and that actually killed Bane, but we know that not to be true in canon because we saw Bane in the Bad Batch, so I think the exact same scene near enough will be recreated in the Book of Boba Fett, and Boba will win. Whether he wins because he's wearing a helmet or because he fires first, I don't know. Bane will be quite old in the Book of Boba Fett, as Boba is already. Bane will be even older, quite significantly, so I think Boba would win that fight. And now we have Djarin to Captain Phasma. Now wait, I don't think that Captain Phasma is superior in combat to Djarin. I don't think it's close. One, Din has pure Beskar, she has Durasteel, so he's already superior in that way, but I also think he's much more skilled than Captain Phasma. So how is she going to kill him? Well, I think that being the hero that Din is, he goes to sacrifice himself, well, not necessarily to sacrifice himself, but he went to save Grogu in the Mandalorian Season 2 finale, so if someone close to him got captured, he would go and save them, basically. Chances are he will fail to save the person he goes to capture, and he gets captured himself, and Captain Phasma wants to make an example out of him to make the First Order seem like a serious threat, and executes him in front of people. We see in The Rise of Skywalker by Colin Trevorrow, some of the concept art showed a rebel pilot getting executed on Coruscant in front of thousands of people to make an example out of, so I think we could have a very, very similar scene recreated, but it's Din Djarin that dies. It would be incredibly sad, but I also think it would be a good way to end Din Djarin's character, linking the Mandalorian to the sequels once again, and it's also very far down the line, so we won't have to do it anytime soon, and they can get what they want out of the Din Djarin character before they kill him off. I think it makes a lot of sense, especially if they're not going to have him lose in combat for his death, because there isn't too many people out there that could beat him in a fight, unless it's Kylo Ren, but Kylo Ren's even further down the line, because he's like a very, very small child right now. I could see the Kylo one happening, is what most people think, but I personally think Phasma would kill him in some kind of public execution. And now on to one that a lot of people disagreed with when I first made it, and that is Boba Fett will die to Han and Chewie. So Boba is kind of a weird one, because he's not really pure enemies with many people, other than some people in like the criminal underworld, I imagine, that we'll explore in the Book of Boba Fett, but he's not exactly pure enemies to the Imperial Remnants, because he's worked with the Empire. He's not enemies with the New Republic, because he's just worked with Din Djarin. Obviously Cara Dune's a member of the New Republic, she will know that Din's worked with Boba, so he's kind of just neutral ground right now, so I can't see him just going into battle against like the Imperial Remnants and dying. So Han and Chewie is an interesting one, because they have beef with him in the past. Obviously Boba is the one that made Han go into Carbonite, and I think that if Chewie and Han came across him at any point, they could potentially best him in a fight. Obviously it would be a very, very specific scenario, because Boba literally has armor, a jetpack, an incredible ship for fighting, but I can see a scenario when they're in like really close quarters and Chewie gets his hands on Boba, and because he's a bit of a like rage monster, kind of lets his emotions loose and ends up killing Boba Fett, as obviously in the back of Chewie's mind, he is the one responsible for Han going into Carbonite. I also think a bigger reason that this could happen is maybe Boba in the Book of Boba Fett, or not necessarily the Book of Boba Fett, but in that time between episodes 6 and 7, he is out kind of doing what the Winter Soldier or Bucky did in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, removing the people from power that he enabled to get into power that don't deserve the power, but also getting revenge on the people that he needs revenge on. And Han is the one that made Boba Fett go into the Sarlacc pit, so maybe he doesn't actively seek him out, but if he comes across Han, he wants to fight him more than Han and Chewie want to fight Boba, but obviously Han and Chewie probably don't like him all too much, so when both of those things are combined, they are likely to fight, and I think if Chewie gets his hands on Boba, he could kill him, but I think in any other scenario, Boba would beat them, but they do have plot armor, so if they fight, Han and Chewie ain't gonna die. So out of all the possible ways for Boba Fett to die, I'm not saying this is likely, but it's the most likely in my eyes, and that's how I think he will die, because I can't really see it any other way, unless they just boot him off in the background and say that he lives out a happy life and dies of old age or something. But I think Han and Chewie getting revenge on Boba could be a cool way to do it, and then they end up regretting what they've done, because they found out that Boba's not a bad person anymore, something like that. But yeah. And last up, we have Moff Gideon will die to Grand Admiral Thrawn. Yes, again, a pretty weird one, but I think Gideon will fail in some kind of scenario, and Thrawn, coming back from, well, nowhere and taking over the Imperial Remnants, will use Gideon as an example to show that he means business and will kill Moff Gideon. Because Thrawn won't really be very impressed if Moff Gideon can fail to one Force user, a couple of Mandalorians, and 2 random like gunners, because obviously Thrawn has taken on Kanan, Ezra, Sabine, Chopper, Zeb, and a bunch more rebels in the past and outsmarted them all, and if Moff fails in a situation like this, then Thrawn won't be too pleased and wants to make an example out of him. Moff is probably the highest ranking member of the Imperial remnants that we know of right now, so for Thrawn to claim his place at the top again, maybe he has to get rid of Gideon. And yes, I think he would like to make an example out of Gideon's failure to show that if you fail, this is what's going to happen to you. I definitely think Thrawn's going to be a bit more evil in his return than he seemed in Rebels, because yes, obviously he was a villain in Rebels, but he didn't seem very evil. Obviously he was quite evil, but like no Palpatine, but I do think he'll be a bit more evil in his return, and this could be a prime example of it to set the tone that Thrawn means business. So that is how I think 5 different characters will die in Star Wars. Let me know if you agree. Let me know how you think these characters will die in the comments down below. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like, subscribe for more Star Wars content, more videos on the way, and with that being said, goodbye.